Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And today is Taco Tuesday.
It's raining tacos from out of the sky. Tacos, no need to ask why. Just open your mouth and close your eyes. It's raining tacos. It's raining tacos out in the street. Tacos, all you can eat. Lettuce and shells, cheese and meat. It's raining tacos. Yum, 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 yummity yum. It's like a dream.
That's right, folks. It is like a dream. Today is Taco Tuesday. We're having a good time. Summer has unofficially begun, as we all know, Memorial Day being the unofficial beginning of summertime. I hope you all had a blessed Memorial Day. Hope you took a few moments out, at least a little bit of time to honor those who gave the ultimate sacrifice for our nation, for our freedom, and to remember what it's really all about. Anyway. Wanted to say, well, I don't know where Mike is today. I'm assuming that he had a full holiday weekend, but I'm here, you're here, we're here, and we're gonna have a good time today. If you are watching the program live, please take a moment to comment. If you're watching us on YouTube, on Facebook, if you're watching us on Twitter, if you're watching us on Rumble. All you have to do, if you're watching us, by the way, if you're watching us 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, today being Tuesday, go ahead and comment. Go ahead and let us know what's up. Let us know what you think about the show. Let us know how you let us know what you think about the topic. Now, I will tell you this. We don't necessarily have to agree with you in order to share your comments. We just have to find them interesting. Although I will say this, if I disagree, I'll just put it to you this way. I reserve the right to mock you. That's right. As Mike would say, we will mock you. All right. Now, before we get into the program, we're going to do what we usually do, and that is we're going to start with a quick shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start with Hitman Industries, rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you for purchase at any length. All you have to do is go to hitmanindustries.net. If you've purchased there recently, chances are you already have one of their barrels and you know how good they are. So whether you're looking to do a brand new build or you're looking to rebarrel your current rifle, check them out today. Once again, hitmanindustries.net. Then you've got the California Republican Assembly working to help elect conservatives at all level of government, from school board all the way up to the President of the United States. Ronald Reagan once referred to CRA as the conscience of the Republican Party. You need to check them out. You need to go to cragop.org. That's cragop.org. If you want to be a part of California's future today, you got to join CRA. And then we've got the best in concealed carry tactical holsters on the market. That's right, I'm talking about Hog Holsters. You can find them at hogholsters.com. Go there, check them out. And if you make a purchase, make sure you use the discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces, one word, just like it is right up there. Once again, just go to hogholsters.com. That's helping Americans wear guns. And then we got the place to go if you are looking for group deals or looking to make group purchases on any sort of tactical gear, outdoor gear, indoor gear, wet weather gear, cold weather gear, hot weather gear, because the summertime is coming up. Whether you're looking for packs, whether you're looking for lids, whether you're looking for eyes, ears, whatever it is, they've got all things tactical except the gun at uscombatgear.com. All right, we're going to jump right into the news of the day. And this first one has to do with SCOTUS. That has to do with the Supreme Court of the United States. And I have to say, this particular ruling is one that, well, let's just say it surprised me. It surprised me that the Supreme Court did not or opted not to take up this case. Here we have a case being reported by Fox News. It says Supreme Court declines to review free speech case involving student who wore only two genders t-shirt. It says here the Supreme Court declined to hear a case involving a Massachusetts student who was banned from school for wearing a t-shirt criticizing the gender movement on Tuesday. The student, Liam Morrison, brought the case through his father and stepmother, Christopher and Susan Morrison. The plaintiffs argue the middle school violated his free speech rights when it banned him from wearing two t-shirts to school with the words, "There are only two genders," and "There are censored genders" on the front. Here's an interview that was done on Fox News with the young man and his attorney.
Welcome back. We've got a Fox and Friends exclusive now. That seventh grader is suing his school after they tried to force him to remove his shirt that said simply, "There are only two genders." School had a problem with that. 12-year-old Liam Morrison was told to change or get out of class. After politely refusing to take off the shirt, he was sent home. Now Liam and his family are suing his town and school for censoring his views, while the school promotes the LGBTQ agenda with pride flags and posters. And Liam joins us right now from his home, screen left, along with Tyson Langhofer, who is representing him. Good morning, fellas. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, Liam, let's start with you. Take us back to that day in March when you wore that shirt into school. And let's start with, why did you want to wear a shirt that said there are only two genders?
I wanted to wear that shirt because it was a very popular topic and I wanted to voice my opinion about it.
And so by wearing the shirt you were, what happened when you showed up in school with that?
When I first arrived, I was met by a lot of people commemorating me and being happy and agreeing with me for wearing the shirt.
Okay, and at some point, a teacher must have had an objection, or because the principal eventually came up to you, and what did they tell you?
Well, they told me that a lot of people were being upset by my shirt and that they wanted me to take it off.
I understand that. So did you discuss with them? Look, it says there are only two genders. There are only two genders. There are a number of gender identities now, but there are only two genders.
Yeah, I did have a bit of a discussion with them about it after they told me to take it off.
Right. But you were going to stand up for your right to make, your First Amendment rights, so you didn't take it off. They sent you home. And then a couple weeks later, you wore another shirt to school. Tell us about that one.
Yeah, so it was that same "There are two gender" shirt, except the only two part was covered in a white piece of duct tape that said "censored" on it, which was more or less a symbolism for how they were censoring me.
Right. And is that how you feel, like your school was censoring your First Amendment rights?
Yeah, they completely blocked my ability or took away my ability to have a different opinion than they wanted me to have.
All right. Now, Tyson, you are representing Liam and his family in this case. This is not about two T-shirts, is it?
No, absolutely not. I mean, this is about a school censoring a seventh grader who just has a different viewpoint. Students don't forfeit their free speech rights when they go into, when they step into the school. Right. The school is talking about this issue all the time, and all Liam wanted to do was to express his opinion, which is actually shared by a lot of his classmates.
So, the shirt itself is true. There are just two genders. There are different gender identities, as I said a moment ago. But does the school have something against that?
Well, it's hard to tell because their student handbook actually says that public education must be available to members of both sexes. And it says that sexual harassment can't be against either gender. So, the school's own communications actually support Liam's viewpoint. But what they've told him is that he can't express that on his shirt. And we think that's wrong. No student should ever be punished for simply peacefully sharing their view on a really important topic.
Liam,
And I think that right there is where the real important thing is that, first of all, and we've talked about this issue before, for some reason, there seems to be this thing where people believe that you're not allowed to express your particular opinions. In other words, in this particular case, in the case of the whole gender identity, gender conversation, uh, the society, not society, the powers that be have made a decision as to what is. And once again, we never really had a full blown communication. We never had a full blown debate. And we just decided that all of a sudden, instead of there just being two genders, now all of a sudden there's a bunch of genders. And if you dare to contradict that, if you dare to say anything against that, if you don't fall in line with the orthodoxy, then you are ostracized. You are silenced. And if you refuse to be silenced, then you will be punished. And that's what's really happening here. Is this is someone who, whether it's about this issue, whether it's about the Second Amendment, because we've talked about this, where the Firearms Policy Coalition held someone accountable. They went after a couple of different school districts that actually had tried to punish a student for wearing a pro Second Amendment T-shirt. And in the end, well, those school districts wound up backing down because once again, they're trying to portray a message. They're trying to push an agenda, a political agenda, and that's what this is. This is a political agenda, and they don't want anybody who might disagree with them. They don't want the other side to be heard. And once again, I think as the attorney noted, a student does not surrender their right to freedom of speech when they go to campus. Parents don't subvert or give away their parental rights when they send their kids to school. What I don't understand, about why they did not take this up, the reason that the school district had was they were afraid that this would that this would harm other students, that this would incite other students. And the thing is that's exactly the sort of speech that needs to be protected, right? Easy speech, like things that everybody agrees with, which by the way, most people tend to agree there's only two genders. That having been said, you have a right to say things that are controversial, especially if they happen to be true. One of the biggest reasons why you're seeing so much pushback in education against education is because they're trying to indoctrinate our children in views and values that are clearly contrary to those that these kids are being taught at home. Matter of fact, I just wrote a piece about this because we were talking about the whole gender and gender identity education issue in schools, and the Supreme Court actually just heard a case on it. And then one of the interesting things is they point out there is a difference between exposure and indoctrination. And that indoctrination is not something that should be allowed in school, right? We should not be allowing the public school in particular to be doing that, to be indoctrinating our kids, especially when it works in contrast to the views and the values of the parents, right? The parents ought to have the opportunity to opt their kids out. And in this particular case, this kid had an opportunity or had a right to be able to wear a T-shirt that expressed his view. One that, by the way, is backed by science. That science is called biology and anatomy. One that is backed by thousands of years of history. I don't understand what the controversy is, but I understand why the Supreme Court did not take this case. Just so you know, there were only two people who dissented and wanted to hear the case. That was Justice Alito and Justice Thomas. But it's important to note, and we already knew this. We already knew that the statist Supreme Court Chief Justice, we knew that he was going to go with whatever the state or the government wanted to do, no matter how much it violated the individual rights. But the surprising thing was all three of Trump's appointed judges refused to hear the case. Now, maybe there's another case, maybe there's a better case that is still coming up that is not quite as far along the path that maybe they want to hear, that maybe gives them a better way in which to rule on this, or allows them to rule on a broader group of topics. I don't know. But I would love to hear from them why they refused to take this case, because I think it's a pretty big deal. freedom of speech in particular when we're talking about. And here's the thing, if you want to believe that there are multiple genders and I want to believe that there are only two genders, you know what? You have a right to believe that, but we also have a right to debate that in the public square. We have a right. And if any place we ought to be able to have that discussion, have that debate, it's at school. But at school, they just want to have one side of the debate. Well, one side of a debate is not a debate. It's not education. It's indoctrination. And by not taking up this case, by not ruling on this case, it appears that they've taken a side, and their side is indoctrination is okay. Really? I don't want to believe that that's the decision that they're making, but it's hard for me to believe anything else. Once again, unless there is evidence that that they believe something different. Here we have a guy who commented, Jamie McGuire, decided that he was going to come in and he said, "What a whiny fake problem. Calm down, old man." He called me an old man. You're wrong, and other people know more than you. Now, mind you, he said this 4 minutes into the show. So I don't know exactly what I was wrong about, because by that point in the show, I've barely even mentioned our sponsors. So I just think that he saw the headline and decided that he was going to comment and wanted to kind of get his name out there. Anyway, dude, I don't know what your problem is, Mr. McGuire, but you're an idiot. By the way, if you want to know how much of an idiot Mr. McGuire is, here, let me see if I can get this thing up here. We'll show you his. No, you know what? No, that would just be me. I'm not going to show you his profile. I don't want y'all messing with him. But yeah, dude is a little bit of an idiot. Once again, all that having been said, if you want to have a debate, let's have a debate. But how about you wait till I get the topics out first? How about I actually say something before you decide that you're going to comment from the peanut gallery? Anyway, just my thought. Not saying, just saying. You might recall there were a number of different incidents or things that happened during the Biden administration that, well, let's just say we never really found out a whole lot about. Investigations that should have been done that we never really saw, go to fruition. We never really saw that. We never really saw it go to fruition. Okay, Mike is now chiming in. He says, "Jesus, what's that on your neck?" It's called my head. That's what my head is on my neck, Mr. Mikey P. Yep, there you go. That's exactly what he commented. Oh, that's your head. Never mind. What a maroon. So this is what happens. This is what happens when you let Mike Pilwarski in the peanut gallery. Anyway, once again, all that having been said, so anyway, there are a number of investigations that have been taking place, and it looks like now that there's a new sheriff in town, it looks like they're going to be taking up some of those investigations again. It says here, being reported by NPR, FBI re-examining Dobbs opinion leak, DC pipe bombs, and White House cocaine cases. The FBI is refocusing on 3 high-profile cases that emerged just before and during the Biden administration. Dan Bongino, the deputy director of the FBI, announced Monday on X. The FBI wants to revive or invest more resources into cases that Bongino said pointed to potential public corruption, including the investigation into a pair of undetonated pipe bombs left near the Democratic National Committee and the Republican National Committee headquarters on January 5th, 2021, and the discovery of a bag of cocaine at the White House over the July 4 weekend in 2023. The third case getting renewed scrutiny is the 2022 leak of the unpublished Supreme Court Dobbs decision, which ended federal protections for abortion. An 8-month investigation into the leak, ordered by Chief Justice John Roberts, was unable to identify the person responsible. Quote, Shortly after swearing in, FBI Director Kash Patel and I evaluated a number of cases of potential public corruption that understandably have garnered public interest. We made the decision to either reopen or push additional resources and investigative attention to these cases, Bongino posted on X. And I think these are important because, one, I mean, not just not just for the cases themselves. Like in particular, if someone is leaving pipe bombs, whether it be at the DNC or the RNC or at they're leaving pipe bombs anywhere. We need to know who these folks are. We need to develop an understanding so that should these things happen in the future, we can at least if there's an opportunity to tie it back to them, then we need to be able to do that. We need to know if we don't want to wait till one of these bombs goes off and then find out it was the first time. It wasn't the first time that they've done this. If we have the opportunity, kind of like I'm always like saying, police, like in California, police won't come. If your car gets broken into, they'll take a report over the phone, but they won't do anything, right? My thing is, why don't you at least take fingerprints? So that way, when you eventually catch somebody, when you eventually catch the guy, because the criminal is eventually going to do something where they're going to get caught, what they get caught for is not going to be their first crime. You'll have a string of crimes, of things that you can tie back to them. So I think that's why in particular, that's important. In regards to the Dobbs decision, that's a vital one because we cannot have, first of all, that definitely played a role in the 2022 midterm elections and the early leaking of that decision. Number one. Number two, we can't have stuff like that happening. If someone in the Supreme Court is leaking information, they need to be held accountable, right? And evidently, and I'm wondering if this is an ally of someone on the left, which is the reason why they didn't want it to come out. And well, now we know. I think it was an ally of someone on the left. I think we'll now know if it was an ally of someone on the left and they just didn't want the truth to come out. Or maybe they didn't know if it was an ally on the left. They didn't know if it was an ally of someone on the left. But they didn't want to take a chance on it. That could have been it as well. All I know is that it needs to be investigated and it needs to be addressed. And I'm glad to hear that they are, in fact, doing that. They are, in fact, reopening those investigations. As far as the cocaine in the White House, I think that was all a part of an opportunity. Well, there's a lot of things. We found out there's a lot of things they're covering up in the White House. Sadly, sad but true. Yeah, sad but true. I just think there's a bunch of stuff that's being covered up at the White House. And this was just one. And they thought that they were going to win again. And so they feel like, well, we don't really need to be held accountable for any of the stuff we're doing. And trust me, folks, we're finding out some beyond Watergate level stuff. I mean, if you go back and I've started actually reading Jake Tapper's book. Yeah, I went ahead. I got it. Because I wanted to hear this stuff that he's talking about. This is beyond Watergate. There was a shadow government. And we know this, but they're admitting now that there was a shadow government running our country. That's what's so crazy about this. There are literally people who've been interviewed in this book who are admitting it, admitting that the president wasn't the one. I mean, well, they're coming pretty darn close from what I'm hearing, and makes you wonder. I really would like to hear the tape recordings of the actual conversations, because all we're hearing now is what's in the books, right? Is what's in the book. That's all I'm hearing now. I want to know what they actually said, because I believe that they said more to Jake Tapper and the other guy who wrote the book than is actually was reported in the book. And I'm willing to bet we're going to find out what we already knew, which was there were a group of unaccountable, unelected folks, and then the book refers to them as the Politburo. They were the ones that were running the country. And it wasn't being run by Joe Biden. Now, we all knew this. We didn't know who they were, but we're going to find out real quick who they were. And anyway, interesting stuff. I can't wait to hear what happens. There's going to be more. There's definitely going to be more. There's definitely going to be some investigations into this. Congressional investigations, Department of Justice investigations. Because, like I said, we don't know how many of these decisions were actually made by Joe Biden. We don't know what things were signed with auto pens. We don't know what pardons were actually issued by Joe Biden. We don't know what role did his infirmity play in the debacle that was the pullout of Afghanistan. We don't know. And we don't. It goes back to back around COVID. We don't know what we don't know. So we gotta try and figure this. We gotta try and figure this stuff out. Okay, Mike is over here in the peanut gallery commenting, "Your head, it's huge, huge." Yeah, right. Anyway, he says he was at the grocery store at 6:10 and felt like he was missing something. Still not sure what it is. As he's commenting on the show. Mike. It's a good thing you're a funny dude. Did you say he's blaming it on the holiday weekend? Okay, man. Look. It's not a head. It's a cranium. No, it's supposed to be Mike. It's supposed to be. Look at the size of that cranium. It's as big as a pumpkin. It is. Yeah. Anyway, see, normally you're used to seeing me in this. Here you go, Mike. Maybe this will make you feel better, Mike. Here, I'll put myself in the little box. There you go. That feel better? Is my head smaller now? Just go ahead and let me know. Let me know, Mike. Let me know if you think it's. I want to see pics of Hillary. What kind of pics of Hillary are out there? I have no idea what pics of Hillary you want to see, Mike. But no, thank you. No, thank you. All right, moving right along. NPR sues Trump over call to defund them. Now, wait, first of all, let me read a little bit from the story. This is a story from the Financial Times. I could have pulled a piece from NPR, but I decided to do the Financial Times. Anyway, it says here, NPR sues Donald Trump's administration over order to defund public broadcasters. Now, mind you, this was not just NPR, but this was also PBS. Anyway, it says NPR has sued Donald Trump over his executive order to halt federal funding for public broadcasters. The latest move in a simmering conflict between news media and the U.S. president. The public broadcaster claims Trump's executive order violates the First Amendment's press freedom guarantees and threatens a service that millions of Americans rely on for vital news and information. Other radio networks, including Colorado Public Radio, Aspen Public Radio, joined the lawsuit filed in federal court in Washington on Tuesday. NPR chief executive Catherine Marr said in a statement that the Trump's order was clear violation of the Constitution. Quote, "The Corporation for Public Broadcasting is creating media to support a particular political party on the taxpayer's dime. Therefore, the president is exercising his lawful authority to limit funds to NPR and PBS," said Deputy White House Press Secretary Harrison Fields. Trump has stepped up his battle with media groups during his second term as president, filing billion-dollar lawsuits and demanding investigations into broadcasters. Now, let's just be real. First of all, understand that what used to be a slight lean right or left by public broadcasters, first of all, has turned into they are flat out leftists. I'm sorry. They are flat out neo-Marxist leftists. They are clearly, and one only needs to go back and look at where folks have analyzed the stories that have been done, not just throughout the media, but particularly on PBS, particularly on NPR. And they generally tend to lean far, far left. And if you're going to push a particular political objective, well, guess what? The government's not supposed to do that. Government dollars are not supposed to go to do that. And but here's the funny part, whether it's Trump in the White House, whether a Republican, or whether it's Obama in the White House, a Democrat, or Biden in the White House, a Democrat, or George Bush in the White House, a Republican, these entities have always tended to lean left. They've always tended to push a political agenda to the left. And in many cases, push false narratives and disinformation and misinformation in the process. And they want the government to fund it. There is absolutely nothing that Trump is saying. He's not saying you can't say what you want to say. He's saying we, the taxpayers, don't have to pay for it. We don't have to pay for your lies, NPR. And I happen to agree with him. We don't have to pay for your lies. We don't have to contribute financially for you to be able to lie. I don't understand why that's so hard for you to get. And it's, part of the challenge here is that many of the folks that run or work over at NPR, who work for PBS, they've spent all of their lives around left-wing progressive radicals. And so they think that's the norm. They actually think of themselves as centrists. And they're not. You are the far left. You are the far left. And the reporting that you think you are doing, nope, it's not objective. Not objective at all. Because you're so incestuous. You want to know how non-objective we know you are? All you have to do, just look at what is going on right now with Jake Tapper's book, where he is pointing out the people who were doing the lying, the people who were lying to me and you, the people who were lying to the media, now they're like, yeah, we were surprised how easy it was to lie to you guys, how you guys just took whatever we gave you and you just took it and believed it. But when you have Donald Trump say something, you literally have his words. You want to know how it worked? When he said on January 6th, go over to Congress and peacefully make your voices heard. Y'all couldn't hear peacefully. You blotted it out. You acted like it never existed. You still to this day act like he never said it. How is that? And yet, in this particular case, they flat out lied. Like, we never saw anything. No. You didn't see him in April of 2021 fall up the stairs of Air Force One. You didn't see that. You didn't see that at all. You didn't hear him say Bada Kata Kef Care. That is not a stutter. You didn't hear him say, my butt's been wiped. You didn't hear that. You never heard that anywhere. See, what's as funny is, and Mike and I have talked about this, I don't know how many times. We've talked about this ad nauseum. I didn't have any ties into the Biden White House. I didn't have any inside sources in the Biden White House. Yet I heard it. I saw it. I could see the man deteriorating in front of our eyes. And y'all act like, well, I don't know. I didn't see anything. No, you didn't want to see anything. And NPR is the perfect example of it. They didn't want to see anything. They didn't want to because they're biased. And if you're going to be biased and your reporting is going to be biased, well, then, fine. Go take your biased ass over there and get your own money. Don't use taxpayer money. It ain't that hard to figure out. It really is not that hard to figure out. No one's asking you to contribute money to Fox News. Of course, they don't really need your money since they are whooping your asses in the ratings on the regular. Heck, OAN and Newsmax are doing better than most of these left-wing stations. And they're not, most of them aren't even on most cable networks. You gotta pull them up online. You got to download the app in order to get them. And yet they're still kicking your butts. So yeah, no one wants to hear your fake news. Even worse than no one wants to hear it, no one wants to pay for it. That's my problem. That's the only thing. That's where I'm at. I don't want to pay for it. I just don't want to pay. I don't want to pay for your lies. By the way, speaking of lying, how about this? Now, this could only happen at Harvard. Okay, it could happen at any one of the Ivy League or Poison Ivy League. That's what I'm going to start calling them. I'm going to start calling them Poison Ivy League schools. Anyway, only at an Ivy League school, only amongst the left-wing elite, could you have a star business professor, one whose specialty is ethics, get fired for false data? Wait, what? Now, let's read the story. Being reported by the New York Post, star Harvard business professor stripped of tenure, fired for manipulating data in studies on, wait for it, dishonesty. Let's hear more. A renowned Harvard University professor was stripped of her tenure and fired after an investigation found she fabricated data on multiple studies focused on dishonesty. Francesca Gino, a celebrated behavioral scientist at Harvard Business School, was let go after her school's top governing board determined she tweaked observations in 4 studies so that their findings boosted her hypothesis, GHB reported. Harvard administrators notified business faculty that Gino was out of a job in a closed-door meeting this past week, the outlet reported. Harvard did not detail the professor's firing or tenure being stripped, citing it as a personnel matter, but told GHB that the school had not revoked a professor's tenure in decades. The professors have had no professors have had their tenure revoked at Harvard since the 1940s, when the American Association of University Professors formalized termination rules according to the Harvard Crimson. The Post reached out to Harvard for comment. The Ivy League professor, who had authored over 140 scholarly papers and snagged numerous awards, had come under scrutiny in 2023 when a trio of behavioral scientists published a series of blog posts on data colada, with evidence accusing four of her papers published between 2012 and 2020 she had co-authored contained fraudulent data. Well, it's kind of interesting. You got a person here who is supposed to be teaching business ethics, engaged in cheating. Well, there you go. I don't know that there's much more to comment on that. It's just bad, I guess. I don't know what else to tell you. Good things are happening at Harvard. By the way, once again, I said this before, I used to be impressed by the Ivy League. I'll give it to you. I used to be, wow, Columbia, wow, Harvard, Princeton, Stanford. Now I realized, as I wrote in a piece last year, these folks are just being educated into imbecility. And what I mean by that is that they are being indoctrinated. They're not being educated. These are not the best of the best. They are not the brightest of the brightest. And there is absolutely, positively no need to put folks who attend these institutions up on a pedestal any longer. They don't deserve it. They flat out don't deserve it. It doesn't mean that none of them do. They just don't deserve it just for the sake of going to that institution. In fact, for the most part, it was funny. There was a thing that I was looking at, and they were noticing that even college degrees in general, people are more interested in making sure you have the knowledge. Like, there's a study that showed that computer science degrees are like among the highest groups of folks with unemployment. And that's because what's happening is you have these people who are going and they're getting all of these certifications that demonstrate that they know and they understand how to do certain things that you used to depend on a person with a computer science degree to do. Well, now guess what? You don't need the degree to do it. You just need to have the knowledge and prove it. And that's who's doing the stuff now. So that's why I always wondered, another thing, who is going and getting a film degree? All right, so you're out of school getting a film degree. What is the value other than maybe the connections that you make? Because I know a bunch of people in film who are making money in film who didn't study film. They just went out and started doing it because they enjoy it. Anyway, I got way off topic, didn't I? Yeah, I did kind of get off topic with that one. Anyway, moving right along. Let's go ahead and let's get to our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com. Use the discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces. Get your Hog Holster today. Here we have Bill Maher with an interesting little tidbit of his commentary talking about Democrats and why I think they just don't get it.
You wear Queers for Palestine t-shirts and masks 2 years after the pandemic ended. And you can't define woman, I mean person who menstruates. You're the teachers' union education party, and you've turned schools and colleges into a joke. What a shocker that the people who see everything through the lens of race and sex see their election loss as a result of racism and sexism. Kamala spent 100 days telling voters, I know it feels like crime and illegal immigration are bad, but f your feelings. Look at this chart. Have you seen my "In this house we believe" lawn sign? See, it says right on it, we believe in science. Right, which is why you demanded no one even debate whether COVID could have escaped from the one lab in the one city where they were studying it. How far-fetched. Democrats have become like a royal family that, because of so much incest, has unfortunately had children who are retarded.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's the thing, is that you've literally, and the worst part is that they don't even know. These young folks have no idea how uninformed or how ill-informed they are. I got a guy, once again, and he's not even children. This is a grown-ass man who constantly likes, he wants to debate, but he doesn't. As evidence, he sends me random videos from guys on TikTok or people on Instagram, as if that's evidence or proof. Now, mind you, when I send him stuff, right, when I'm talking about things that are going on, and I send him articles from places like, the Financial Times, from credible news sources, even if they're news sources that I don't necessarily believe in, but they're news sources that he would find credible, right? I'll send him links to studies or to research that's been done. Something that actually, but not just randos on TikTok. And the sad part is, by the way, so many people in this next generation, in the Gen Z, actually get their news from TikTok and from Instagram. It's scary, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. Here's an interesting one. This is Adam Carolla, and I by no means consider this to be scientific, but I do consider this to be an interesting observation.
All progressive guys cross their legs like women. What they do, literally, it's a sign. I cross my legs. As I cross my leg, it'll hike up my top leg, pant leg, and it'll expose my colorful sock. Mm-hmm. And then you'll know where I'm at. By the way, you can watch them all. Watch Gavin Newsom. Watch them all. Watch them how they cross their legs, and then watch how Trump crosses his legs. Mm-hmm. He doesn't cross his legs. He holds his legs wide open.
He puts a diamond in front of his testicles.
Right.
He sits like this every time.
So there's Trump with the diamond. His diamond, which accentuates his nutsack. And then you have Justin Trudeau signaling, I have no balls. I have no balls. I will sit in this position for 4 hours, cut off the circulation of my nutsack because I do not have balls, but I have colorful socks, so you know where I'm at. Ladies, gay community, you know where I stand. Look at my socks and watch me cross my legs like a chick.
Oh, it's just right here, right here. This is where you'll find the truth, right here. Yeah, that is Donald. That is so Donald Trump. Now, I realized in this last one here, and I know that I give Kamala Harris a really hard time. I know I talk a lot about how failed she has been as a vice president, how she has absolutely no accomplishments to her name as a vice president, and I have to admit that I was wrong. I have to admit, I have to own it, that I was wrong. This meme here says, this is a picture of Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. It says, my greatest achievement as vice president of the U.S. was to certify Donald J. Trump as the 47th president. Yep. So she did have one accomplishment, and that thar be it. All right, folks. Well, hey, that's going to be it for today's show. But before we go, one last shout out to our sponsors. We got Hitman Industries rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you at hitmanindustries.net. Then we got the California Republican Assembly. Check them out at cragop.org. That's cragop.org. We've got Hog Holsters. Just get your Hog Holster today at HAWG-holsters.com. And then finally, you can find all things tactical except the gun at uscombatgear.com. All right, folks, that's going to be it for today's program. We very much appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program and encouraging your friends to do the same. We will be back tomorrow on Hump Day. Till then, y'all have fun, stay safe, and we will see you mañana.